to recap a little bit, the first 5 questions that we touched on, 1, am I investing in myself? So we spent quite a bit of time on that one, understanding, from a leadership perspective, where are we spending our time? Are we spending any time outside of our daily getting better? Are we improving? And we can still improve during the normal course of the workday, but what are those things that we're doing? Are we picking up a book? Are we listening to something? And I think the biggest point from that was it doesn't have to be a ton. I was talking to one of our sewer specialists the other day, and he was talking about trying to work out again, and he's like, I go, why are you committing to killing yourself in a workout? If you want to get something going, maybe 20 minutes, walk around the block or something like that a couple times, just to get you started. A lot of that in investing in yourself is just getting started, creating that momentum that's going to keep that continual improvement going. Number 2 was, am I genuinely interested in others? So this was obviously kind of a motive question. So, how do you show up? Do you show up ready to serve your people, or ready to tell them what to do, or tell them what they're doing wrong, or, make up some policy or procedure? Are you really there to empower the people that you lead? Number 3 was, am I doing what I love and loving what I do? So, is our passion aligned with what it is that we're doing? Do we come to work every day energized? Now, as I just said, some days a little bit harder to get energized depending on the amount of sleep you got, or what's going on in your life, or whatever it may be. We get that, but can we show up ready to serve? And I think with that mindset, we often find what it is that we love to do. We talked a little bit about, as it relates to our industry, is if all you love is plumbing or heating, you may struggle on a daily basis to stay motivated. No matter how much you love fixing furnaces, you're going to struggle. And that's where it kind of connects back to number 2, is, am I genuinely interested in others? We can get really passionate about helping people because we can do that on a daily basis. There's kind of the internal satisfaction of helping, plus creating a positive result for someone else. Number 4 was, am I investing my time with the right people? So we talked a lot about mentors and how to create them, and where we find help along the way. We're all going to need help. No one's going to get there alone. And what is it what are those things that we may struggle with, or we're interested in learning? Having that desire, you can seek out those people. In my life, I have, as it relates to this point, and I think I may have touched on this, seeing those people, oftentimes we can identify, right? We can identify, I really need to probably spend time with that person. But that kind of also sounds weird, how am I going to, spend time with this person? But what I can tell you is, providing value to them, it is oftentimes reciprocated, if that truly is someone that you want to spend time with. Because oftentimes, you're not going to want to spend time with someone who's a complete jerk, right? You're going to want to spend time with people who are of the same mindset you are, wanting to serve others. And what I have found is, serving them, even when you think that you may not have much to offer, there's always a way to offer value to someone. I think I spoke about a story about, one of my mentors, that a lot of times, a lot of people I follow, they don't know that they're my mentor. We never sat down and signed a contract. I just happen to watch a lot of what they do, and see how they act and see how they react to certain situations, and find an opportunity to talk to them about certain things. But that all started with providing value. So how do we do that? And number 5 was, am I staying in my strength zone? So we talked a little bit about disc profiles, and oftentimes finding our strength zone is about being very, very cognizant of our weaknesses. So as it relates to other people, where could we come off and be misunderstood? And that's going to hopefully identify where our strengths are, but not so much celebrating our strengths. Yes, it's one thing to work on them, but being aware of our weaknesses is going to propel our strengths a heck of a lot further than otherwise. Because oftentimes, where we're weak, will detract from our strength because someone may be put off by how we approach something or how we talk to somebody or whatever it may be. So those were the first 5. And the second 5 have some similarities, but I think some good things to talk about. So we'll dive right in with number 6. And this sort of relates to, am I genuinely interested in others? But it says, am I taking others to a higher level? Am I taking others to a higher level? Now, as I think about this question as it relates to management, okay, so oftentimes if we hire a manager, a lot of the, call it metrics and or evaluation points or measures of success are based around results. How many calls did we answer? How many of them did we answer correctly? What's our average ticket? What's our total revenue? What is this? And we equate that to managing, we'll just call it a department. Managing a department. So you're the manager. Well, the unfortunate thing about this, and I've talked about this before, is that you as a manager can't create a result, right? You're not picking up the phone, you're not running calls, you're not doing the act that is going to ultimately get you to a lot of these metrics that we put in place for managers. You ain't doing it. You're not. That's why oftentimes there's a big disconnect between promoting the best technician or the best whoever into a management position, because oftentimes they're two totally different things. So as it relates to management and as it relates to this question, am I taking others to a higher level? Your job as a manager is to develop your team so that they can reach higher. They can help you hit your goals. Notice I said help you hit your goals. Manager gets a lot of credit when we hit the goal. Oh God, he's a great manager. Well, is he really? Is she really? Because in my mind, there's a couple of ways to affect results. You can be somewhat authoritarian in your demeanor and kind of browbeat people into getting results, or you can develop your team. So what's that look like? What does developing your team look like? What does being really focused on taking others to a higher level? Well, a lot of times that looks like coming alongside them. How can I help you? Where can I help you? What can I do to make you better? Where can we get better together? Because the development in your team is going to lead to the development of your department or your area that you're managing. And for me, this is one of the things that is sometimes so, it makes me want to beat my head up against a wall sometimes. It's, if you are the manager, how are you going to develop your team if you spend no time with them? It ain't going to happen. We get stuck sometimes in so much administrative this and report this and God knows whatever. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is spending time with our team. You've got to be with them. You've got to understand where they're struggling, where they're having problems, where there's miscommunication, where we can help them. Because that's what's going to allow you to sit down and do your administrative work and be happy about it. Because there's going to be a good result on the paper. Doing administrative work in hopes of creating a good result is very rarely going to happen. Very rarely. That's like crossing your fingers and going, oh, I hope this adds up. Oh. it didn't. Darn it, maybe next month. Well, what do you think is going to happen next month if you're just sitting there, not with your team? The most important thing you can do as a manager, and it's the toughest thing, right? Because we're all tasked as managers with a lot of that administrative stuff. We got to make sure all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted, and there's a lot of stuff going on. But how are we prioritizing our time? If you took your 40 to 50 hours in a week and blocked it out with, this is time that I'm going to spend with the team, versus this is time I spent doing administrative stuff. What I can tell you is that what you'll probably find is you're doing a whole lot more admin than you are spending time with your team. So what's it take to flip that? What help do you need to get to that point where you can be spending time with the team, where you can be uncovering what's going on? He's got a couple of quotes in his, or on this worksheet that I'll share that I think kind of go along with this. This one's from General Schwarzkopf. When you help others climb a hill, you will get closer to the top yourself. And he has another one from Zig Ziglar. You can get everything in life that you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. To me, this is just, both of those ring really true, and I think we would all agree that, yeah, that makes sense. But it's always hard to do, because at the end of the day, we're all wired to protect ourselves. We're all wired to look out for our best interest. But in leadership, we have to understand that it's our job to take others to a higher level. One of the analogies, or the ways that I like to look at this, is from and I think this is a model that's been out there. I didn't just come up with this, so hold your applause till the end. But is a lot of times you have an org chart that runs down, right? You've got your manager, and then it goes down to the people that they manage, so on and so forth, all the way down. It's like a pyramid. And so I've always, in order to kind of keep this frame of mind, this understanding of what needs to happen, is look at it from an inverted org chart. So if you are the manager, you are underneath all of those that you manage. And for me, that always reminds me that it is not my job to cast down anything. It's my job to raise up. It's my job to develop my team so that they can push higher. Essentially, they're pulling me. Their success is ultimately going to pull me to where I want to go. And that comes in many different forms. Maybe that's a one-on-one chat. Maybe that's just getting out of somebody's way to let them do their thing. Or, maybe that's clearing an obstacle so that they can keep pushing. But if they're out front, how do we support them? That's the big question. And the more support you can lend them, the better off your team will be. Number 7, one of my favorites, one of the toughest to do. Am I taking care of today? So I've seen this exercise done where they talk about how many days you have left on Earth. Like if you were to, hypothetically, if you, passed away at 85 or whatever you want to call it, how many days you have left. And that's kind of crazy when you think about that. And you think about how fast days go. I was talking with, my wife and I on, what was that? Monday, on the holiday, we were going back and forth with all this stuff that we had to do and stuff. And so we printed off calendars and had them all out and filled it up with everything that we have to do. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, why is there so much stuff? And what I found myself doing, unfortunately, and had to catch myself, is I found myself looking at all of these events and being like, God, I just want to check that one off. Like, God, can we just get to Thursday so we can knock this out and get it done and like move on? Not that I was like looking forward to anything. So it wasn't like, I can tell you, there is one small vacation on there, but like I wasn't looking at it in the frames of like, okay, cross that day off, we're one day closer to vacation or one day closer to something fun. It was literally like, let's just cross this off so we don't have to worry about it. Like, let's just get through September so that we don't have something to do every single weekend. The problem is October is much the same. But like, so now it's even worse. Now it's like, how do we get through September and October to like just not have anything to do? And I got to thinking, and I've left like the calendars out on the kitchen island, and I've caught myself multiple times doing that. Like, just hoping that days like fly by. Like, I just need to get this done. And as I was preparing this morning and I saw the calendars as I was making breakfast, and I was like, God, this is so difficult yet so easy, right? I mean, how do we embrace the day? How do we get really clear on how we make this the best Friday, September 10th that we can? And I think this comes down to what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about, creating that, investment in yourself. And it doesn't have to be huge. It's just got to be productive. And so I think that as I think about this, it's, okay, what are my end goals? So where do I want to be by the end of September? We'll call it for example purposes. Where do I want to be as it relates to leadership or the company or whatever goals I have, and then work backwards. Okay, well, if I want to get to this, I need to do this every day, and then prioritize. Because at that point in time, we're utilizing the day to get the stuff that we know is important done. Now, as I say that, what's the one thing that most people don't do? Well, the one thing that most people don't do is they don't ever set any goals. They don't ever have anywhere they're going. So if you don't know where you're going, it's really easy to let Tuesday slip by. Because who really cares, right? I mean, we don't need to prioritize anything. We don't need to necessarily get anything done. We just need to get through Tuesday because we're not going anywhere, I mean, it's just like, oh, yeah, let's get through. That's Wednesday, Just moving on. So how do we first set those goals so that we can take advantage of today? So we start with the end in mind and then work backwards to what we need to do on a daily basis. And then write those things down. What are those key things that you need to do every single day in order to get where you want to get? I've talked about this principle kind of probably you guys are probably sick of me talking about it, but one of the ways that I ensure that I get my stuff done is having some sort of morning routine. Some sort of, this is what I do every morning to get my day started off on the right foot. And for me, that's been one of those things where, am I perfect? No. Do I go days and I won't do it? Yeah. But I can tell you when I get back on it, like, whew, things are good. Things are moving in the right direction. And I think when we start off our day with understanding what we want to get done and more importantly, why we want to get that done, I think success will only naturally follow. John says, the secret of your success is determined by your daily agenda. What are you doing on a daily basis? What's on your agenda for today? Is it going to draw you closer to where you want to be? And understand, a lot of the stuff that you're going to do, there's no result, there is no reward at the end of the day. There is no sign that you won. It's a process, right? You know, one of the things that I do for my morning routine is I write to my kids. I say kids now, so I've got 2 journals, which makes it a little bit more difficult. I used to write to Blake every day. She now gets every other day because we got to squeeze the other one in there. 2 was just, it was too much. There again, very simple. 1 page, I can do 1 page. 2 pages, it would stretch me a bit. So I went to every other day, so they get every other day. Now some of their entries are the same. I will admit that, because if I find something good, well, I want to share it with both. So one of them gets it on a Tuesday, the next one's going to get it on a Wednesday. I just copy it straight out of there. So that's our little secret. Please don't tell them. But this is one of the things that I do on a daily basis, and selfishly, it makes me feel good. But there is no win after I get done, because they've never seen this. They won't for probably, I don't know. I haven't decided when I want to give it to them, but they're going to have to be somewhat old enough. I always think about my high school self. I'm like, someone handed me that book, that's going in the trash. Jeez, guy, get up. Woo, hello. So it may be a little bit later. We may have to wait a few more years. So we'll figure that one out. We'll judge the maturity level, and then we'll go from there. But to me, that's one of those things that's where I judge my success. Did I get that done? And it takes literally 5 minutes. But that 5 minutes, when I get that done, my day goes better. I know where I'm headed because I got those important things done. Did I eat breakfast? Did I read a little bit? Okay, cool. That literally, all of that activity takes about, depending on how much I read, about 45 minutes. But I know those 3 simple things will take me to where I want to be. Breakfast, health, reading, getting better as a leader, and then this is helping those that I care about. So what are those things that you need to do today? Why do you need to do those things? Get out of the monotony and the minutia of the day of like, well, I got to make these phone calls. Well, I got to go do this. I got to go handle this issue. Yeah, those things are going to come up. But what actions, what items are truly going to lead to your success? What if you took 5 minutes in the car on the way into work, you turned off the radio, and you thought about the 3 most important things you need to do today? And then when you got to work, you wrote them down and put them on your desk, and you just attacked those 3 things. Or 2 things. Or 1 thing. Whatever you want. What would that start to look like? What would your wins start to look like for the day? Would you feel lost? Would you feel like I felt when I looked at that calendar of like, God, I just want to get through today so that we can check this off. You know, God, tomorrow we got a birthday party and we got this and we got that. I was like, God bless it, get through this. The more we can stop getting through things and start investing in ourselves and where we want to be, is the minute that we start to realize success. And it won't be there right away, but you will eventually get there. And you will create that momentum that we talked about when we talked about investing in ourselves. You will create that momentum that is a very, very, very difficult to stop. What if you could create that momentum? What does that look like for you? What if it started with 5 minutes in the car on the way to work? Notice this entire talk, both parts, the first one and this one, all filled with simple stuff. If I've said anything, I've said do less, not more. As it relates to this principle, do less, not more today. What things are you spending your time on? When you get really, really clear on those, good things are going to happen. Number 8, we just talked about this. Am I taking time to think? So, how much time are you taking to prepare? Are you taking to think? Now, the importance of thinking, I've heard this said a bunch of different ways. The example on here is a minute of thinking is greater than an hour of talk. I've heard like an hour of preparation is equal to 10,000 hours of doing or something like that. I don't know. I just made that one up. So it's something like that. I don't know. I can't really remember what it is, but it's something of the sort. You guys get the picture. Basically, thinking and preparing are better than actually just going in and doing. So we were just talking about morning routine. We were just talking about, having, something to kind of lean on as this is what gets me going. So how much time are we thinking? How much time are we thinking about where we want to be? If I went around today in the office and asked people where they wanted to be by the end of 2022, how many people do you think that I would get to give me a definitive answer? Very, very few. That's like a year and 3.5 months out. Where would they want to be? I'd get a lot of, I don't know. It would actually sound a lot like that. It's a pretty good impersonation. Why is that? Have they even thought about it? What if they did think about it? What if they thought about it for 5 minutes a day? What if they thought about it and said, okay, well, if I need to do that, then I probably need to do this by the end of this month. And I probably need to get here by the end of that month. And if I could just do like 5 minutes of something every day, well, I'd probably get there. Am I taking time to think? For me, this comes very easy. For some odd reason, I've been blessed with a mind that can see things out that aren't there. This drives my wife crazy, by the way, because she has to see it. And so I'll be explaining this grand plan, and she's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? You can't see that. It's great. It's right here. It just goes right over here. And you see it. No, not happening. But that is where I'm very comfortable. That is why I can sit down, I can draw, when I say draw, lines with a ruler. But I can see where those are supposed to go. Like this building, I drew this building just from scratch. Now, it may not be perfect. It's obviously not big enough. Missed that one. But I can see things like that. So when it comes to thinking, I find great comfort in the ability to think. That's what I like to do. Which sounds super boring, I know, now that I say it out loud. But that's what I like to do. Now, for some, that may not come as easy. Like my wife, that doesn't come very easy. She needs to see things. So seeing out into the future and then backing it all the way up to what needs to happen every day, that's not her style, which is perfectly fine. She's great, right? But we have to really stretch out into the future. That's where I'd challenge her. Please don't tell her I said that. I think we have to think out into the future, and we have to understand what that looks like. And we got to get really clear with what that looks like, what that feels like, because ultimately we have to have something to drive towards. We have to. So as you're leading those on your team, Where is it that they want to be? What is it that they want to do? They may tell you, I want to be doing this same thing a year from now. You know what? That's perfectly great. But could they get a little bit better? Probably. Is there something in their personal life that they'd like to get better at? Okay, well, let's help you do that. How can we here, doing what you're doing at work, make you better so that you can get there? And notice I'm not talking about like, I want to have a house or I want to do that. Now, I think this works for stuff like that because you can put together a plan to get there. But this is more so of who you want to be. To me, that's something that people don't think about a lot. What do you mean, who do I want to be? I guess I just want to be myself. Well, yeah, but would a better version of yourself look better? We've all got areas that we can improve in. Listening or, being kind or, being there for the kids more or the wife or whatever it is, like, how can we get you there? And to me, that comes with thinking. Very rarely have I ever, and maybe you guys have, but very rarely have I ever arrived at success and said, shoot, that was pretty cool. Appreciate it. And I'm sure you win the lottery or something like that. Yeah, you arrived. I don't know if the winning the lottery is considered success, but it just happens. Okay, boom. There aren't a lot of things like that. Most of the things that you have accomplished in your life are things that you said, I want to do that. And you put together a plan, even if you didn't know it, and you took steps every day to get there. Now, where I find that people don't equate the two and don't link the two is it's not a perfect path. So think about something that you became successful at. And then try to re-engineer all the way back to when you first decided, ooh, I want to do that. And then think about what that path looked like. You probably don't think that it was super important to think about that result because there were probably times during that journey when you fell off the wagon, when things didn't go right, when you missed a week of workouts, when you missed whatever it was, when you did this or did that. And so we lose sight of that first time that we thought about something. We lose sight about when we establish that in our mind that that's what we were going to do. But we have to think about these things. We have to understand where we're going. Where are we going? What's that look like? What's that feel like? When I think about where I want to be in 3 years, like when I think about that, I don't think like, ooh, I'm going to be here. I think about like what it would feel like to wake up every morning and what it would feel like to make breakfast and what it would feel like to drive, what it would feel like to interact with people, what it would, just all of the things. And I can tell you, if you get really clear on what it feels like, that's a hell of a driver as opposed to, well, I'll know I made it when I get there. Because along the path, you'll start to feel that. You'll start to feel it. You'll get touches of it. Whereas if it's just like a thing at the end, you're never going to feel that until you get there. And that's tough to keep that motivation. But if you get really clear on that feeling, you can generate that feeling along the way. You can generate, ooh, yeah, that feels like I want it to feel. Okay, I want more of that. Well, that more of that is going to draw you even closer to where you want to be. So really focus when you're thinking about where it is that you want to go. Think about how it feels. As it relates to leadership, how do the people on your team feel? What's a meeting feel like? From a technician perspective, what does an interaction with a customer feel like when you get to where you want to be? When you truly just are in that moment, what's that feel like? And I know that can be tough. That takes some deep thought. But take the time to do it. You'll be pleasantly surprised. Number 9. I may finish a little bit early today, which is good. Am I developing leaders? Am I developing leaders? So we talked about this a little bit earlier, and he has a quote in here. One of the most significant contributors to business failure is the inability to get things done through other people. Am I developing leaders? So, we talked a little bit about this on number 6. Am I taking others to a higher level? Somewhat of the same, but higher level may just mean in their particular craft as it is. This question relates to more of, am I developing leaders? Am I developing a team full of people? This doesn't mean they're all going to be the manager. That would be kind of weird to think about. Like, oh, I'm leading a team of 10. I'm going to train all of them to be the manager. Well, that'd be weird because then there'd be 10 managers and it'd be odd. But how can they be a leader on your team? How can you have a group full of leaders? Well, let's break it down. Leadership is the process of asking yourself these questions. So, if leadership is, if these are questions I ask myself as a leader, how do we, as a leader, get people on our team to ask these questions of themselves? How do we get the people on our team to ask themselves on a daily basis, am I investing in myself? What if everybody on your team was investing in themselves? What would your team look like? Cool. Sounds pretty good. What if everybody on your team said to themselves on a daily basis, am I genuinely interested in others? And they answered, yes, I am. And here's how I'm going to show it. That'd look pretty good. What if everybody on your team said, am I doing what I love and loving what I do? Well, where's that come into play? Do I got everybody in the right seat? So if someone on your team is saying, I really don't like this. Well, okay, let's figure out why. And let's figure out if there's another seat you need to be in. Let's figure out whatever it is, let's figure that out for you. You know, what if people on your team were reaching out to others for help? Am I investing my time with the right people? What if they were seeking out others, trying to get better, trying to serve them? What's that start to look like? Am I staying in my strength zone? Am I taking others to a higher level? This is the one that gives me the most satisfaction, is when I see technicians helping other technicians. And it happens on a daily basis. But a lot of them will never equate this to leadership, but that's exactly what it is. If you can create an atmosphere and a culture where others are helping one another, you are going to create a killer team. Some of these questions that are a little bit more difficult to answer that you may ask yourself, they're going to start materializing. I can tell you that. What if you had everybody on your team saying, am I taking care of today? Now this one, Jesus. I always say, at the end of every service meeting that I lead, you literally will be successful if you show up at the first house that you go to today with more energy than you have ever showed up with before and a smile on your face. There is no way you can't be successful. Regardless of how mad or tired or whatever it is the customer is, if you show up with energy and a smile, you will get them. You will win. What if you could get everybody on your team to do that? How do we get everybody on our team to do that? Am I developing leaders? What does it take for the people on your team to be able to ask themselves these questions? That's leadership. It's not like, ooh, how am I going to develop a leader? Well, I don't even know if I'm a leader myself. Ask yourselves these questions. That's what it's about. If you ask yourselves these questions on a daily basis and are intent on acting upon them, guess what? You're a leader. This is the toughest one here. Am I developing leaders? Well, you are if people on your team are asking themselves this question. My job is to develop leaders. Why do you think I'm talking about it? I don't have all the answers. I just copied this sheet off the internet and filled in the blanks. Seems simple to me. Do I fail at asking myself these questions? Yeah, daily. I'll probably forget one today. But it's just a little bit, just a little piece today. So if you can ask yourselves one of these questions today, you're taking a step in the right direction. We had a meeting the other day, and one of the technicians said, I'm having a really hard time getting to know the customer, create a meaningful relationship with them. And so I asked, well, does anyone know how to do that? Is anybody good at that in the room? Well, what's that? That is getting people to have a genuine interest in others. They wanted to help him. They want to make sure he did good. Am I staying in my strength zone? Yeah, so there were people in that room that were really good at creating a relationship. That may not be his strength zone, but we may be able to help him improve that piece. And we told him at the end of it, you go, if you do nothing today, success will lie in you finding out about the first customer that you go into. That will be success. And he did. I think the guy was a truck driver and had been retired and the whole bit. Okay, this guy literally, and you could tell in his face, he had went into a few calls and never asked a single question to any customer. But that's okay. I think he even sent us a synopsis of the second customer he went into. So he did it twice. And we said, hey, just keep doing that on a daily basis. You'll get better at it. Guess what he's going to do once he figures out that actually works? He'll be the one 3 months from now that will raise his hand when a new technician can't create a relationship, and it'll help him. I know he will. So the last question. We've reached the end of our 10 questions. And this question is one that can go a bunch of different ways, and I debated on whether I was going to say it just because of where I'm kind of at in my own personal life, but I figured I'd share it because that's what getting better and growing is all about. So the last question that John talks about is, am I pleasing to God? Okay, so this talk just took a left-hand turn, right? Oh boy. No, I am not going to start preaching or anything like that. And there again, I don't care what your beliefs are or anything like that, but I wanted to share this piece that I have figured out in my kind of journey, spiritual journey, if you will. So I was raised Catholic all my life. I went to Catholic high school, grade school, the whole bit. And more recently, I have gotten away from that particularly. And so oftentimes I would, probably a couple of years ago, I would equate myself as I'm not spiritual at all. I don't subscribe, I'm just in the here and now and all of this stuff. Well, the funny thing is, and I'm not saying you gotta do anything, but the funny thing is if you look at, we'll use the Bible for example, you look at the Bible, Like, this is the stuff in there. This is it. So, to me, where I have connected on a spiritual level is through leadership. Like, that's where I connect. And what I would encourage you all to do is, we talked about in question 8, is am I taking time to think, is think about where you're connecting on that level. And think about what, allows you to do that. What I can tell you is that asking yourselves these questions on a daily basis, listening to any sort of leadership podcast or anything, what you're going to do is more than likely going to be pleasing to whatever you follow. Just put it like that. Because in my mind, at the end of the day, we're all called to help others, be a good person, and do what's right, and live with integrity. Okay. I'm very, as I said, this whole thing, very simple. And so, to me, that's where I start. And that's kind of where I have kind of fallen. And I'm okay with that. I feel good about that. I feel like as long as you try to do good on a daily basis, as long as you're helping others, you're going to be heading down that right road, whatever road that is that you believe in, which is perfectly fine. But I think the important thing is, again, as it relates to this, is connecting with yourself, understanding what it is that you want to do, who you want to be, what you want to do in your life. We only get the one life. So what is it that we're going to do? Who are we going to help? How many are we going to help? Are we going to be known as that person that showed up with a smile and was ready to help? We have the opportunity today to do that. And what I can tell you is success, in whatever way you measure it, can oftentimes be found with a smile and an attitude to serve. I have found success in that more times than I can remember. I am here to help, and I'm excited about it. Cool. Good things happen. So again, all of this, very simple. Tough to do? Yes, because life will get in the way. Trust me. But can we carve out that time for ourselves? Can we understand the importance of thinking, the importance of asking ourselves these questions to prepare ourselves to win today? Take some time and think about what winning today looks like, what winning Friday looks like. And I would encourage you to not base it on a result, but base winning today on your actions. Because guess what? I know you can win today if you base it on actions. Because you'll have the choice today to win it. You may not get the result you were after, but if you base your goals on actions, what you will get is results far more than you ever expected.